It was 3:07 a.m. when the mirror shattered. Not by accident, not in silence. I took one look at my reflection, bloated, broken, tired of pretending, and something inside me snapped. I don't remember screaming. I remember the sound. Glass exploding like a final breath. My fist bleeding. My face twisted in grief, rage, disgust. I had spent years avoiding that mirror, dressing in the dark, hiding from my own reflection like it was the enemy. But that night, I didn't look away. I looked straight into the eyes of a woman I no longer recognized, and I broke her, or maybe I freed her. The shards fell like pieces of a story I didn't want to carry anymore. Diets, doctors, family jokes that left scars, lovers who touched me like a favor. I swept it all away with the glass, and I made a promise, right there on the floor, surrounded by blood and brokenness. Never again. I would never speak to myself with hate, never starve myself to feel worthy. Never shrink just to fit inside their comfort. That night wasn't rock bottom. It was a rebirth. If you've ever looked in the mirror and hated the person staring back, this story is for you. Subscribe and turn on notifications. Here, we tell stories that deserve to be heard. I can't remember the first time someone told me I was fat, but I remember the first time I felt it. I was 6, sitting on a hard plastic chair at a birthday party, trying not to breathe too loud because the dress my mother forced me into was too tight. The other girls ran around like butterflies in pastel colors. I stayed seated, sweating, tugging at the waistband, digging into my skin, pretending I didn't care that no one had invited me to join them. Food was everywhere. Cake, chips, soda. I watched the others eat without guilt, without hesitation. I reached for a second slice of cake and heard one of the moms mutter, "She's got an appetite, doesn't she?" They laughed. I laughed too. That was the beginning of the performance. Eat like you don't care. Joke before they do. Wear black. Stay quiet. Pretend it doesn't hurt. But it always did. At home, food was both comfort and punishment. My mother was obsessed with control. She'd praise me when I skipped meals and scold me when I asked for more. "You'll never find love if you can't control yourself," she'd say while picking at her own plate like it was poison. I learned early that hunger was a virtue, that desire was dangerous, that my body was a problem I was supposed to solve. I started hiding snacks under my bed. Crackers, candy, peanut butter. I'd eat in the dark, fast and desperate, like I was doing something shameful, because I was, not eating, wanting, existing. I wasn't allowed to take up space, and food was the only thing that made me feel like I belonged, even if it was just for a few seconds. In school, it was worse. The nicknames, the PE teachers who didn't even bother learning my name, the desks that bruised my thighs. The way the boys would say, "You'd be pretty if you lost weight," and expect it to sound like a compliment. I skipped meals. I drank water to feel full. I chewed gum until my jaw ached. I wrote down everything I ate in little notebooks and cried when the numbers didn't make sense. At 13, I tried to make myself throw up. I stood in the bathroom with my fingers down my throat and tears in my eyes, but I couldn't do it. I was ashamed of failing even at that. I remember thinking, if I can't be thin, I can at least be invisible, so I started shrinking in other ways. I stopped raising my hand in class. I avoided pictures. I let my voice fade out in conversations. I became a background character in my own life. But food never let go of me. It was my shame and my shelter. I'd starve all day and binge all night. I'd eat until I hated myself, then promise to be better tomorrow. I measured my worth in calories and inches. My body became a battlefield, and every bite was a betrayal. College didn't help. New city, same pain. I thought moving out would free me, but I took my mother's voice with me. Inside my head, judging every bite. I tried every diet. Keto, vegan, juice cleanses, fasting. I lost weight, I gained it back. I lost myself somewhere in between. I dated men who treated me like a project, who told me I was brave for wearing a swimsuit, who praised me for ordering a salad like I was performing a magic trick. I laughed. I performed. I hated every second. And then I met Daniel. He wasn't cruel, just indifferent. He loved the way I listened, the way I made space for him, but he never touched me like he wanted me. He never looked at me like I was beautiful, and I accepted that. I thought, this is what I get. At least he's here. At least he's not leaving. Until he did. He left with someone thinner, prettier, louder. And he didn't even say it wasn't about my body, because it was. That night, I ate everything I could find. Cookies, pizza, ice cream. My stomach hurt so badly I thought I'd be sick. I sat on the kitchen floor, crying and cradling my belly like it was the enemy. But it wasn't. It was just trying to survive, just like me. That was the night I stopped pretending I was okay. I looked at the empty wrappers and realized I had spent my entire life punishing myself for wanting to be loved, for being hungry, for food, for affection, for peace. And none of it had worked. I was still alone, still ashamed, still starving. Something had to break. And eventually, something did. I didn't realize I had hit rock bottom until I stopped feeling anything at all. For years, the pain had been sharp, like a knife twisting just enough to remind me I was alive. But then it dulled. It became silence. A heavy, suffocating quiet that followed me everywhere. I woke up, worked, ate, scrolled through my phone, slept, repeat. Days melted into each other. I was 32 and living like a ghost. My apartment was a mess of empty takeout boxes, unwashed dishes, clothes that didn't fit anymore piled in corners like monuments to my failure. The mirror in my bedroom stood covered with an old bedsheet. I couldn't bear to see myself, not even accidentally. Sometimes I'd catch a glimpse of my reflection in the microwave door and flinch. The roundness of my face, the dullness in my eyes, the way I didn't even look human anymore. I used to think the worst feeling was hatred, but it wasn't. It was indifference. Hatred meant I still cared. Indifference meant I had given up. Food became mechanical. Eat to fill the silence, to numb the ache. Some nights I'd eat until my stomach hurt, then lie on the floor staring at the ceiling, waiting for the shame to drown me. Other nights I wouldn't eat at all, punishing myself for existing. My body had become the battleground of every war I never asked to fight. My mother's voice still echoed in my head, sharp, disapproving, endless. "No man will love you if you don't love yourself," she used to say, pretending it was wisdom. But what she really meant was, "No man will love you if you stay like this." I had internalized that sentence so deeply it became scripture. I prayed to it with every skipped meal, every self-loathing thought. I started avoiding people altogether, stopped answering messages, stopped going out. My world shrank to the size of my apartment, and even that felt too big. The nights were the worst. The loneliness had a sound, like static in my ears. I'd sit in bed scrolling through pictures of women who looked like everything I wasn't, slim, radiant, adored, and I'd hate myself more with every swipe. My phone became another mirror I couldn't stand to face. I think that's when the insomnia started. I'd stay up until sunrise, staring at the ceiling, my mind looping through every cruel word ever said to me, every rejection, every "you'd be pretty if," every "are you sure you want to eat that?" I stopped dreaming about love. I started dreaming about disappearing. I told myself I wasn't suicidal. I just wanted to sleep for a long time and wake up as someone else. One night, after days of eating nothing but cereal and coffee, I caught sight of myself in the bathroom mirror. I don't know what made me look. maybe I was just tired of avoiding it. I turned on the light, and for the first time in years, really looked. My face was bloated, pale. My eyes were hollow, my lips cracked. There was no spark left, no softness, just exhaustion. I whispered out loud, "What happened to you?" And the sound of my own voice startled me. I didn't recognize it. That's when it happened. Something inside me snapped, not in anger, but in despair. My hand moved before my mind did. I grabbed a hairbrush and threw it. The mirror shattered. The sound was like a gunshot in the quiet apartment. For a second, I thought someone would come running. No one did. The shards fell onto the floor, reflecting fragments of me. Lips, eyes, pieces that no longer fit together. I stared at them, trembling. And then, for the first time in years, I cried. Not quiet tears, violent, body-shaking sobs. I cried for every time I had apologized for existing, for every diet that promised salvation and delivered only shame, for every morning I woke up wishing I was someone else. The blood from a small cut on my hand mixed with the tears on the floor, and it all looked like some twisted baptism, a cleansing. I don't know how long I sat there. Hours, maybe. The city outside slept, unaware that something was breaking and being reborn inside that room. When I finally stood up, my legs were shaking. I looked down at the broken mirror and felt lighter, not healed, not fixed, just emptied out, like something old had died and left space for something new. I didn't know what that something was yet, but I knew it wouldn't come from another diet or another apology. I threw the remaining shards in the trash, wrapped my bleeding hand in a towel, and whispered, "No more." It wasn't a scream, it was a vow. And for the first time in a long time, it felt like truth. The morning after I broke the mirror, I expected to wake up full of shame. But I didn't. I woke up sore, exhausted, emotionally raw, but strangely calm. Like my body had finally exhaled after holding its breath for years. The apartment was still a mess. The air still smelled like stale takeout and silence. But something in me had shifted. Not a sudden burst of motivation. Not a movie moment where I leapt out of bed and changed my life. No, it was quieter than that. It was a whisper, deep in my chest, that said, "Enough." I stood in the bathroom where the mirror used to be, and I looked at the blank wall. No reflection, just emptiness. And I liked it that way. For the first time in years, I wasn't performing for myself. I wasn't checking for flaws or sucking in my stomach. I just existed. That was the moment I made a promise. Not to lose weight, not to become better, but to stop abandoning myself. Every diet I'd ever tried was rooted in hate. Every plan, every restriction, every punishment was a way to hurt myself into becoming lovable. And it had never worked. This time, it had to be different. I didn't know what healing looked like. I just knew it couldn't look like torture. So I started small. I cleaned the kitchen, not all at once. One plate, one surface, one drawer. I threw away expired food, old diet shakes, calorie-counting notebooks. The trash bag felt heavier than it should have, like I was discarding years of guilt. I opened the windows, let the air in, sat on the floor and cried without knowing why. The next day I made a grocery list, not of safe foods or low-carb lies, but of things that made me feel human. Fresh bread, real cheese, fruits I liked as a kid but stopped buying because someone once told me they had too much sugar. I went to the store and felt eyes on me, but for once, I didn't shrink. I walked slowly, deliberately, as if every step was a rebellion. I bought a journal and wrote one sentence. "You do not have to earn your right to exist." I repeated it like a prayer. I wrote it on sticky notes and put them on the fridge, the bathroom wall, inside my closet. Every morning I read them out loud even when I didn't believe them. Especially then. I stopped weighing myself. The scale had become a god I worshipped with fear. Its numbers dictated my worth, my mood, my hunger. I smashed it one night and didn't replace it. Instead, I started asking myself, how do you feel? What do you need? Questions I'd never been allowed to ask. I started walking. Not for steps or calories, but because movement reminded me I had legs, that I could take myself places. I put on music and danced in the dark, clumsy and breathless and alive. I started eating meals at the table, no screens, no guilt. Just me, a plate, and the taste of something real. Some nights I still binged. Some mornings I still woke up swollen with regret. But I didn't punish myself anymore. I forgave myself, again and again. And every time I did, something softened inside me. I started therapy. Virtual, cheap, but consistent. The first time I said, I hate my body, the therapist asked, who taught you to hate it? I cried for 10 minutes straight, because I had never thought about it that way. The hate wasn't mine. It had been handed to me, by my mother, by classmates, by magazines and boyfriends and strangers on sidewalks. It had been passed down like an heirloom, but I didn't have to keep it. I could put it down. So I did, piece by piece. I wore a dress one day, just around the house. I caught a glimpse of myself in the reflection of the microwave and didn't flinch. That night, I lit a candle, poured a glass of wine, and took a bath. Not to treat myself, not as a reward. Just because I was tired and my body deserved care. And in that water, with my skin soft and my belly floating, I whispered, I'm still here. It became my mantra. I'm still here, despite everything, despite them, despite me. I didn't start this journey with a goal weight or a timeline. I started it with a broken mirror and a bleeding hand, and a voice that finally said, enough. And somehow, that was more powerful than any number could ever be. I wasn't trying to become someone else anymore. I was trying to come home to myself. And little by little, step by trembling step, I was. It started small, almost invisible. A morning walk that turned into 2. A meal cooked at home instead of ordered in. A note on the fridge that said, be kind, even when you don't feel it. I wasn't trying to reinvent myself. I was just trying to stay alive in a way that didn't hurt. And somehow, that was more radical than any plan I had ever followed. I used to think self-care was for people who already liked themselves, but it wasn't. It was the bridge I had to build to reach that version of me who didn't yet exist. The first time I went to a gym again, I almost turned around. The mirrors, the smell, the eyes. I could feel the judgment before it even happened. But something in me whispered, this time you're not here to punish yourself. So I stayed. I didn't weigh myself. I didn't count calories burned. I just moved. Slowly, gently. I lifted small weights, walked on the treadmill. I sweated. I shook. I cried quietly into my towel. But when I left, I felt lighter. Not because I'd burned anything, but because I hadn't run away. That became my pattern. Show up. Don't disappear, even when it hurts, especially when it hurts. With time, movement became joy instead of penance. My body started responding. I lost a little weight, but more than that, I gained presence. My reflection began to soften. My clothes fit differently, but what really changed was how I stood inside them. I stopped tugging at the fabric, stopped apologizing for existing in space. I met new people too. Not lovers, not yet, just people. A woman from the gym who invited me to join a hiking group. A barista who remembered my order and asked how my week was going. tiny signs of connection that I had forgotten how to recognize. I started sharing bits of my journey online, not progress photos, but words, honest ones. About the nights I still binged, the mornings I couldn't move, the small victories like dancing alone without shame. I didn't think anyone would care, but messages started to appear. I thought I was the only one. You made me feel less crazy. I broke my mirror too. It wasn't a following. It was a quiet chorus of women who knew the same ache. We started talking, then meeting, then supporting each other. We created a small community of softness in a world that only spoke in harsh tones. Once a month, I invited them to my apartment. We'd sit on the floor with candles and tea, talking about the things we used to whisper to no one. There were no diets, no rules, no goals. Just stories, and that was enough. I began studying nutrition, not the kind that teaches you to restrict, but the kind that teaches you how to nourish. I wanted to understand what my body had been asking for all those years while I kept silencing it. The more I learned, the more I realized how many of us had been starved, not of food, but of compassion. That realization changed everything. I started a blog. I called it Shattered and Whole. The first post read, "I broke my mirror, but I didn't break myself. I found the woman I buried underneath the shame." The response was overwhelming. Women from all over the world wrote to me. Some were still in that dark place, sitting on the bathroom floor like I once did. Others were just beginning to breathe again. Every message reminded me of why I started. I wasn't a guru. I wasn't fixed. I was proof that healing didn't have to look pretty to be real. As months passed, my world grew fuller. I was working again, sleeping better, eating with intention instead of fear. My apartment no longer felt like a prison. It felt like home. I painted one wall green, the same shade as the dress from my dream. I hung a new mirror, smaller this time. I didn't check it every day, but when I did, I didn't flinch. I smiled sometimes, tentatively, but it was real. My reflection no longer looked like an enemy. It looked like a witness. The more I cared for myself, the more I realized I was building something bigger than just a new life. I was building a truth that had never existed in me before, that I was worthy, even in the in-between, even before the after. I wasn't done healing. I wasn't done hurting either. But I was done disappearing. That, I decided, was enough to keep going. I used to think my story ended with me, that once I started healing, that was it. Just me learning how to exist without breaking. But healing has a strange way of echoing, like sound bouncing off the walls of the universe, finding its way into other hearts. It began quietly. A few messages online, women telling me they had read my posts or seen a quote I shared. I cried when I read this. You put into words what I couldn't say. I'd read their words with trembling hands, not knowing how to answer. Who was I to help anyone? I was still patching myself together, still scared of falling apart. But they didn't need a savior. They needed someone who understood. And I did. I started replying, slowly, honestly. Not with advice, but with truth. Me too. It still hurts sometimes. You're not broken. Those 3 words, you're not broken, became a kind of prayer for me and for them. Soon, my little blog turned into something larger. Women began sharing their own stories in the comments. Some wrote under their real names, some stayed anonymous, but the energy was the same. Relief. Like finally exhaling after holding your breath for too long. I began hosting online chats every Sunday. We called it Mirror Hour. The name made us laugh, because most of us still struggled to look into one. But it became sacred. We'd light candles, talk about the things we were still learning, the days we slipped back into old habits, the moments we caught ourselves being kind. One woman said she hadn't worn sleeveless shirts in 15 years, but that week she did, and no one died. Another said she finally ate cake on her birthday without apologizing for it. Another said she'd thrown away her scale too. Each voice was a spark, a chain reaction of small rebellions against the hate we'd inherited. I started recognizing faces, names. They became friends, sisters. We built something I had never known before, community without comparison. We didn't measure each other by size or success. We measured by honesty. I watched as women began creating their own ripples. One started painting bodies like landscapes. Another began teaching yoga for all sizes. One wrote a book. They credited me, but I always told them the truth. I didn't save them. They saved themselves. I just reminded them they could. One night, after a particularly emotional meeting, I sat alone with my laptop open, reading through old messages. One line caught me off guard. "I hope you know you helped me choose to stay alive." I closed the computer and wept. Because I remembered what it felt like to not want to stay. To feel like the world had already decided I didn't belong in it. And now, somehow, my pain had turned into a map for others to find their way out. I began getting invited to speak at small wellness events, podcasts, panels. The first time I almost said no. The idea of standing in front of people terrified me. I still hated being looked at, but then I thought, if I could face my own reflection, maybe I could face them too. I stood on that stage with my knees shaking, clutching a photo of the broken mirror as a reminder of where I came from. I told them the truth, not the polished version. I talked about the nights on the floor, the binging, the blood, the promise. And when I finished, the room was silent. Then a woman in the back stood up and said, "Thank you for saying what no one ever says." The applause that followed wasn't loud. It was real. That's when I understood. My voice was never meant to be small. The world had just convinced me it should be. From then on, I kept speaking. Not to be seen, but to keep others from feeling invisible. I shared my story in gyms, schools, even online support groups for eating disorders. Every time I spoke, someone would come up after, eyes wet, saying, "I thought I was alone." And every time I'd smile and say, "That's what they want us to believe." The echo grew louder, and with it, my fear grew quieter. I started to see how healing moves in circles, how what we mend in ourselves sends ripples through others, who then pass it on. It doesn't end, it never ends. One night, after another mirror hour call, I sat by my window with a cup of tea. The moonlight hit the small mirror I'd hung on the wall months ago. It wasn't broken, but the faint cracks near the edge caught the light in a way that made them shimmer. And I thought, maybe that's what we all are. Not flawless, not whole, just beautifully fractured. Reflecting enough light to guide someone else home. For years, I imagined one moment that would make everything make sense. The scene that would tie the story together. In my head, it always looked the same. I'd be walking down the street one day, thinner, glowing, wearing something that finally fit the woman I had become. I'd run into someone from my past, my mother, an ex, one of the girls who made high school unbearable, and they'd stop, stunned. They'd look at me and see what they had missed. I'd smile, calm and dignified, and keep walking. No words, just quiet triumph. That was the fantasy that got me through so many nights. But that scene never came. Not like that. The first person I saw again was my mother. She hadn't changed much. Still sharp, still critical, still holding her coffee like a weapon. She looked me up and down and said, "You look good, healthier." It wasn't an apology. It was an observation. But something inside me softened anyway. For the first time, I didn't feel small in front of her. I didn't need her approval. I didn't even need her to understand. She would never see the whole picture, the mirror, the blood, the vow. And that was okay. Healing isn't about proving your pain to the people who caused it. It's about refusing to let them define it anymore. A few months later, I ran into Daniel, the man who left me for someone thinner. He looked almost surprised to see me. Not because of how I looked, but because I looked peaceful. He asked how I was, and for the first time, I didn't shrink. I said, "I'm good," and meant it. He hesitated, maybe expecting me to ask about him, but I didn't. I didn't need to. There was nothing left to take back. That night, I went home and laughed. Really laughed. Because the scene I had been waiting for, the grand cinematic closure, had arrived in silence and left without fanfare. No one apologized. No one begged. And I didn't need them to. The closure wasn't out there. It had always been in here, in the space I had made inside myself. Still, sometimes I thought about that younger version of me who believed that revenge could look like beauty. She didn't know that peace would look like solitude. Like drinking tea on a quiet morning without hating the reflection in the window. Like walking into a gym and not comparing herself to anyone else. Like standing in front of a mirror, whole and cracked at the same time, and saying, "You're enough." The real scene, the one that truly mattered, came unexpectedly one evening. I was leading a mirror hour session, and a new voice joined. She sounded young, shaky. She said, "I'm 22. I broke my mirror last week. I thought I was crazy until I found your story." The group went silent. I swallowed hard. That was me, years ago. Lost, desperate, searching for someone to tell me I wasn't beyond repair. I told her, "You're not crazy. You're just tired of being cruel to yourself." She cried. I cried. Everyone cried. That was the scene I had been waiting for. Not the one where I proved everyone wrong, but the one where I could look at someone else and say, "You're going to survive this." Because that meant I had. I realized then that closure wasn't an event. It was a choice I kept making every day. To forgive, to keep going, to not reopen wounds just to prove they existed. I still have scars on my hand from the night I broke the mirror. They don't hurt anymore. Sometimes I trace them with my fingers as a reminder that even pain can be proof of living. The people who once made me feel invisible are still out there, living their lives, probably not thinking about me at all. And that's fine. They don't need to. Their absence no longer defines me. My story isn't about them. It's about the woman who stayed, the one who swept the glass, who kept breathing, who found something worth building from the pieces. The scene I thought I needed, the confrontation, the apology, the recognition, never came. And now I know why. Because I outgrew it. Because sometimes the most powerful ending is no ending at all, just quiet acceptance. Peace doesn't always arrive with fireworks. Sometimes it comes in the sound of your own voice saying, "I'm still here." And that's more than enough. For most of my life, I believed my body was the enemy, the thing that held me back, the thing that got me laughed at, ignored, passed over. I blamed it for every failed relationship, every dressing room breakdown, every silence that felt like a rejection. I saw it as something separate from me, a burden I carried, a mistake I couldn't correct. I thought that if I could just shrink it, sculpt it, control it, everything would fall into place. I thought love would come easier. I thought peace would be possible, but I was wrong. The truth is, my body was never the problem. The problem was the world that taught me to hate it, to mistrust it, to wage war against it like it hadn't been protecting me all along. It took years, years of unlearning, of bleeding, of rebuilding, for me to understand that this body, the one I used to curse in front of the mirror, was the one that saved me. It held me through heartbreaks, through lonely nights and panic attacks, through binges and starvations and everything in between. It never stopped carrying me, even when I wanted to disappear. It kept breathing when I didn't want to wake up. It kept standing when I was ready to fall. This body has stretch marks that tell the story of growth I never planned. It has softness where I once only wanted angles. It has strength where I didn't know strength could live. And now I see it for what it is. Not a project, not a punishment, but a partner. We are not separate anymore. We are not at war. We're in conversation. I listen when it's tired. I feed it when it's hungry. I move it not to change it, but to thank it. I rest not out of guilt, but out of respect. And slowly, over time, I have learned to love it. Not in the loud Instagram caption kind of way, but in the quiet, steady, sacred kind of way. The kind of love that says, I won't abandon you again. I wore the same green dress the other day, the one I had on when I first spoke on that stage. It fits differently now, not just because my body has changed, but because my posture has. I stand taller. I meet my own gaze. I no longer look in the mirror searching for flaws. I look for presence, for peace. I still have bad days. Days when the old voices creep in, when clothes fit weird, or my belly feels too soft, or I catch a glimpse of myself and flinch. But now, I have tools. I have truth. I remind myself, the goal was never perfection. It was liberation. And I am free. I look at the women I've met along the way, the ones who whispered their stories to me, who shared their first sleeveless moment, their first joyful bite of cake, their first dance without shame, and I see myself in all of them. Our journeys are different, but our pain is familiar, and so is our resilience. We were never broken, just buried, and now we are blooming. I no longer measure my worth by numbers, not by pounds, not by likes, not by compliments. I measure it by how gently I treat myself, by how much space I allow myself to take up, by the way I speak to myself when no one else is listening. This body, my body, is no longer a before. It is no longer waiting for an after. It is enough, exactly as it is, in this breath, in this moment. And that, I've learned, is the most radical act of all. If this story found you at 3 a.m. staring into a mirror and wondering if you'll ever feel okay in your skin, I want you to hear me when I say this. You don't have to wait to be worthy. You don't have to change to be loved. You don't have to break to begin. The body you have right now is not your failure. It is your starting place. It is your history, your map, your proof that you have survived every version of yourself so far. It is, quite simply, the body that is saving you, just like mine saved me. If this story resonated with you, subscribe and turn on the notifications. We tell stories here that matter, stories that remind you you're not alone. And tell me in the comments, where are you watching from? I want to know how far this voice can travel, and whose heart it might reach next. You're here. You're still here. And that is enough.